to death. Destruction's path is wide, and many like to roam its course. The rules there they decide.
Hi friends, loving greetings. I am Thomas Matthew. For the brief meditation today, please turn with me to John's Gospel, chapter 10, verses 9. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. I am the door. This is the third I am statement of the Lord in John's Gospel. 10th chapter of John starts with the symbolisms of sheepfold, shepherd, and sheep. Jesus talks about the sheepfold in verse 1. A true shepherd enters through the door into the sheepfold, not by climbing over the wall. In Palestine, each village had a large sheepfold, and it was protected by a wall 10 to 12 feet high. During the night, different shepherds would lead their flocks into the fold, leaving them in the care of the porter. At the door, the porter lay on guard throughout the night. In the morning, the shepherds will return, and the porter will allow them to enter through the door, and they will call their sheep by their names. The sheep recognizes the shepherd and responds to the call, and the shepherd leads them to the pasture. The shepherd entered through the door. Jesus Christ presented himself to the Israel according to what was written about Messiah in the Holy Scriptures. Three things are said about a true shepherd. Firstly, he entered the fold by the door. Secondly, he entered the door when the porter opened it for him. Thirdly, he proved himself by the sheep recognizing and responding to his voice. Note how perfectly Christ met all these requirements and proved himself as a true shepherd. And when he puts forth his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice, and they will not follow a stranger, but will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. In John 10:7, Jesus said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. The door of the sheep is to be distinguished from the door of the sheepfold, as in verse 1. The latter was the divinely appointed way by which Christ had entered Judaism, in contrast from the false shepherds of Israel. The door of the sheep was Christ himself, and through him God's elect of Jews passed out of Judaism. Jesus is the door of salvation. Up to this point, Jesus had been referring only to elect Jews, whom he was leading out of Judaism. Now he says about the elect among Gentiles. Apostle Paul, in Romans chapter 15, verses 8 through 10, says, And I say, Jesus Christ has become a minister of the circumcision for the truth of God, to confirm the promises made to the fathers, and that the nations might glorify God for his mercy, as it is written, For this cause I will confess to you in the nations, and I will praise your name. And again he says, Rejoice, O nations, with his people. Also our Lord said, And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. The door in verse 1 is God's appointed way for the shepherd to the Judaism. The door in verse 7 is the way out of Judaism, and the door in verse 9 is the door of salvation into the presence of God. And this door is applicable to Jews and Gentiles alike. In I am the door, the definite article shows he is the only door. There is only one door for Noah's ark and also for the tabernacle, which was the dwelling place of God in Old Testament time. That's Jesus said, I am the way, John 4:14-6. In Acts 4:12, we read like this, and there is salvation in no other one, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. The door of present day salvation will be shut, and the great day of God's wrath will be coming. In verse 8, he speaks about thieves and robbers. But here in verse 10, he says about a thief. He uses the singular thief, informing about the last false shepherd of Israel, that is Antichrist. The Antichrist will steal, kill, destroy, but Christ came to give life, abundant life. Dear friends, Jesus is the only door of salvation. Have you entered through this door of salvation? In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 7, verses 13 and 14 says, enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. Proverbs 14:12 says, there is a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Are you in the way of death or in the way of life? Thank you for listening to me. May God bless you.
Come seek the gate that leads to life, while it may yet be found. For soon the door will close once more to judgment's trumpet sound. Come now and lay before the cross the burden of your sin, and take the lighter yoke of Christ, that you